Let's talk Gamefound for a second here. Short, brief video. My thoughts. If you missed Alex from Board Game Co., recent announcement as the chief marketing officer on Gamefound just put out a new little blurb about a new policy that's going to be a little bit, in my opinion, a double-edged sword. So, did you miss it? Let's pull it up real quick and let's talk briefly. Without watching the video, without seeing what it is, they lay it out all in text here. And it reminds me of what he offers on his Patreon. He gives like a special lock for, Kickstarter crowdfunding returns if it doesn't turn out to be good, something along those lines, right? And I think a lot of people have like that. A lot of people on his Patreon, he's getting something like $5,000 a month. And so it's a feature that has been of interest to people from a value standpoint. And so now this is sort of the interpretation of the Gamefound portion of that. And this is where it gets a little bit divisive. People have been clamoring for years about Kickstarter to do something. Kickstarter has basically dissolved any sense of accountability of whether or not a project works or a project has any success, right? And so Gamefound is saying, okay, well, what can we do? Because the latest outcry in the last 6 months to a year has been several times, several different manners across multiple channels of shipping costs, right? Whether it was Zombicide, it's Darkest Dungeon, it's anything in between. And so what we've got here is this stable pledge idea. What they're saying is they're going to lock in a shipping amount. They're going to put creators on blast, almost, not blast, but you know what I'm saying. They're going to, basically make creators say this is what the shipping is going to cost. And if the shipping cost is more than 10% of that, a variant greater than that, then they are going to allow, contrary to previous policy, people to get a full refund, including, it appears, the Gamefound fees. So the Gamefound will actually reimburse the creators for that. Otherwise you lose the 10% fee or whatever it is. Same thing with Kickstarter. You lose that whatever 7%, 3%, 10%, whatever that fee is as well. Now it says here that they're going to say the cost of the products, general shipping, or any other costs, including VAT. If they change at all more than 10% after the crowdfunding campaigns end, you can request a refund within 2 weeks of the change. Now that's interesting because when is the change going to be notified? How is the change going to be notified? How soon is the change going to be notified? The other aspect of things that I could see being a little bit of a double-edged sword is they are, aid to the creator. And this is, I'm not really sure this is an aid to the creator fully. Okay, you can open the pledge manager. They're not going to make you put in the shipping costs like when you've opened the pledge manager previously. You're going to be able to open it without doing the charge for shipping so that you can do it at the final dispatch when full costs are known. Sort of to mitigate that on the cost sides of things, to maybe not lose people. At the same time, if you're a creator, you have to do two things. One, you have to opt in. This is not a across the board everybody. The creator doesn't want to opt in on this. They don't have to. And why wouldn't the creator opt in, right? It's an optics thing. It's a marketing thing because, marketing. It's an optics thing because if the creator all of a sudden produces 2,000 pledges, right? Gets all those 2,000 pledges set, has this little creation thing here with the pledge manager, opens up the pledge manager shipping at the very end as they're getting ready to ship, and they say shipping is, oh, sorry guys, shipping's gonna be $40 instead of $20. That's well out of the 10% because 10% there would only be $22. That doesn't leave a lot of margin of error if I'm a creator. That doesn't make me terribly happy. 10% is not that much when it comes to some of those values. What if all of a sudden then you have people say, okay, it's $30 instead of $20 or $40 instead of $20? Where is that line going to be? Because what you're going to see happen is if you have 2,000 pledges, right? What if you have 300 of those pledges cancel? And you as a creator then have 300 products that are unsold. And we always worry about the consumer side of things, but how are creators going to feel about that? Because in the past, all of these changes have been for creators. This is the first thing that we've seen that's sort of swung the pendulum back the other way. But if I'm a publisher, if I'm a creator, the whole purpose of Gamefound in the first place has been the lower-ish fees, although it really hasn't been any more better from a consumer standpoint. So if you're a creator and all of a sudden you have 300 unsold, unaccounted for of what you're going to do product that not only are you going to be bringing over, but you're going to have to store and you're going to have to try and sell elsewhere. If you're a small publisher, that's a concern as well. What are you going to do with all that stuff? That's extra cost to you that you otherwise, we were set to all ship these out, but now you're sending them to QML, you're sending them to whoever, and they're going to have to store them. They're going to have to keep them. They're going to cost you overhead. They're going to cost you additional fees. And how much of those can you absorb? If it's, 5 games, if it's 10, whatever, but if it's a couple hundred, I don't know. Now they go into a couple other details down here and they talk about campaign notifications. I'm mixed feelings about that. You know what I'd really like? I'd really like to see emails that actually show me the update, not emails that force me to click over to your website. That's always been an irritation, and I don't really want to see every other project always that is going to be launched by the same company. I am still getting emails from projects related tangentially to something on Kickstarter that I backed when I was doing a little bit of D&D like 3 years ago, prior to the pandemic. I'm still getting those, and I don't really want those, and there's not an easy way to unsubscribe, so I don't really want some of this stuff, right? This is an easy opt-out if you really want them, and I think people are going to do that too. Because I always hear about like updates and notifications, but separate projects, how adjacent are they? How discriminating are you going to be? Because what I worry about is that all of a sudden I'm going to get adjacent campaigns like, oh, you backed Tainted Grail. Here, check out Dante. You know, I don't want that. I'll look myself. I know some people like that, but otherwise I don't really want a whole lot of emails. I get tons of emails already to begin with, and the number of followers displayed on the main page, that's trivial. It's trivial. It's looking for the popular thing. That's all that is. It's not really going to help people. It's more of an aesthetic, sort of the Kickstarter-esque projects we like, right? That doesn't mean anything. Followers on here doesn't mean anything. It's just a way to hype things up. So that doesn't really do anything for me from that standpoint. And we're going to see where they go. I mean, they just need to, you know, what I'd like to see is if you're going to do something with the main page, make the main page actually focus on the projects that are actually on and funding. I don't need to see Tainted Grail right now, right? Unless you've all of a sudden given me an update and there's something new on Tainted Grail. Otherwise, go to the ones that are actually funding. Support the ones that you are enticing to come over in the first place. I have not seen that wide support of Gamefound across all of the small projects, right? We see like Keyforge, we see Tainted Grail, but did you know like the other half dozen projects? Well, you don't see them when you go to the main page of Gamefound because that's not necessarily what gets the support. Look, I go over right now, literally filming this video. Tainted Grail and Kingdom Come Deliverance are the two up top with Robomon. And Robomon's only up there because it's broken 6 figures probably. But otherwise, Prehistory's just launched. Keyforge isn't up. Powerline's up. So you have 3 of 6 in the top 6. When people click your page, you don't even have running actively. And if I'm a creator and I'm not one of these that's going to get 6 or 7 figures, how do you feel about that? You may get some of the incentive, but otherwise you sort of get chucked to the bottom here of the page. That's not terribly pleasing if I'm that. And there's not a good way to search. Now they're getting better with some of the upcoming stuff down here. They're getting some of the funding. They're starting to separate some of this stuff out. At least this stuff isn't up here anymore. And that's something also the consumer I'm looking forward to, right? At least when you go down here and you click over to active project, this is slightly better. The first row is all active projects. The second row is all active projects. The third row starts already to go into the pledge manager. So active is a very loose term there. So take that for what you will. There you go. Those are my loose thoughts on the Gamefound announcement. Does it really change things from a consumer side of things? No, not really. Not really. I've always said across the board, you know, one of my biggest pieces of advice on the crowdfunding roundup on a weekly basis is if you're that concerned that shipping is going to be a make it or break it for you, you probably shouldn't be backing in the first place, and you should be waiting for retail to some extent or a 2.0 version to see if it's actually worth it. So this, you know, as appealing as this sounds on surface value, I don't see it ultimately changing a lot of people's practices, because also those projects that I mentioned, those are a minority of a minority of a minority of projects, of the biggest plastic ones across the board that are coming in the most boxes. And so, yes, the shipping has cost changed dramatically in those, but the rest of them, the rest of the Kickstarters I've backed, small boxes, regular size boxes, haven't varied too much at all whatsoever. So I view that as, you know, well, essentially, you know, what that is, right? That's a marketing tool to entice people, because Kickstarter has such a prevalent mind space already across the board in the hobby. So I'd like to see more substantial stuff, but I mean, at least it's a step in the right direction too. Hopefully. There you go. It's my thought. What do you think? Thoughts? Am I wrong? Am I right? How wrong am I? There you go. Stay classy. See you around.